Sure, I've got a moment.
I don't think I know you well enough yet to make a comment.
Well, I already told you where I was headed. I suppose what you're asking is, why not just take a boat to Rivenspire? It has been quite the trek from Port Telvanus to here, I'll admit. I wanted to actually see Tamriel. I haven't traveled much in the past. I also thought I could do some field study along the way. Maybe get a hold of some rare ingredients. Thought perhaps I'd make some important connections that could aid me in the future. I don't regret it. It has been a really exciting experience. I was recognized at a young age for my skill in alchemy. A Telvanni alchemist needed an assistant as she had too much work to do on her own. I was made a hireling at almost the same age as I could walk and talk. I wasn't a slave, mind you. However, with the wages I got, I might as well have been. Over time, I was granted more and more freedom to experiment. With experimentation came success, and with success came advancement. It is the meritocratic aspect of House Telvanni that I adore. I'm not a big fan of the intrigue and backstabbing. I owe House Telvanni a great deal. They gave a Deek Salil like me a chance. I don't know where I would be without them. Well, I don't actually know that much about him. He is a master of House Telvanni, so he has a seat on the council. Mind you, Telvanni masters don't actually physically participate in the council. They have representatives that speak for them. This representative is called a mouth. Xelzaz Ren currently does not have a mouth to represent him. Correct. Xelzaz Ren, unlike most Telvanni masters, is not prejudiced against non-dogma. That's his reputation anyway. It is unlikely that any other Telvanni master would be willing to have an Argonian represent them on the council. I believe he is studying some Ayleid ruins. The Doomcrag, if memory serves me. He has been allowed by one of the local barons to set up his excavation there. I do not recall the family name, unfortunately. There are plenty. However, most of them aren't actual members. They tend to be slaves. There are, however, less Argonian slaves now, after the Argonian invasion of Morrowind. The Dunmer have a hard time getting more with the Ansalil in power in Blackmarsh. As for proper members such as myself, there are a handful, but I don't know most of them. There have been a few prominent Argonians within House Telvanni in the past. Sun and Shadow would be one. She was a member of House Telvanni in the Second Era, during the Alliance War. She was a slave originally. It was Mistress Thorana who sponsored her to become a hireling. That was before Thorana went crazy. Most of House Telvanni opposed her rise in the ranks, primarily Gothran, who at that time was a Magister. Not quite Archmagister yet. The mounting opposition did not stop her, however, and she would rise through the ranks, but at a great cost. She was shrewd, ambitious, and merciless. She betrayed most, if not all of her allies on the way to the top. With no friends, allies, or loyalists, her place at the top was not meant to last. Gothran would have his way in the end. Both him and Thorana would outlast her by an era. I am currently a lawman without a master. Originally, when I was brought in as a hireling, my superior was Vela Oren. She was the tower alchemist in Tel Sul. Her superior was Master Relevan Sul, as I rose past the level of hireling, he would become my master as well. I spent many of my formative and young adult years under Master Sul. He initially cared little for me, but over time we grew to respect each other a great deal. A few years back he was assassinated. I then left Tel Sul and moved to Port Telvannis. I would spend my time in Port Telvannis mostly doing freelance work, but I did not find a new master. It was Vela Oren who suggested I go see House Thran. Me and Vela are still in touch. I should send her some samples from Skyrim next time I write her a letter. I should mention you then as well. I prefer to fight with one-handed weapons for the most part. I have no love for heavy armor, and thus stick to light armor. I'd consider myself a relatively proficient spellcaster. I know a handful of spells for each of the main schools of magic. I also have experience with stealth missions, so you shouldn't have to worry on that front either. I assume you're referring to the Red Year. Master Fur lifted his tower into a pocket realm when it became clear that Bardar was going to hit Vivek City. It seems his tower now pops up in random places across Tamriel, wherever his current interests lie. It must be handy to be able to move house like that. I haven't met Master Fur myself. I don't think he cares much about Telvanni business anymore, so he's quite illusory. None. The gods are very much real. You would frankly have to be quite ignorant to believe otherwise. I do not worship any gods, for I am part of the Hist. My soul will not be claimed by some Aedra or Daedra when I die. Not even Sithis may come for it. I am part of the endless cycle that is the Hist. When I die, I will return to the Hist and be reborn again. I can feel my history back in Thorn. I can feel my family, my friends. When they grieve, I feel their pain. When they feel joy, I share in it. Their emotions are as real to me as my own. I also feel a connection to every other Argonian that is shared in the sap from a history. I don't expect someone who isn't an Argonian to understand. Of course. I come from a relatively normal family in Thorn, back in Blackmarsh. They aren't especially well off, but they hold admirable positions back home. I have a mother, a father, as well as a younger sister. My father's name is Sutsokai. He serves in the priesthood under my tribe's treeminder. His role is as a root herald. A tribe's root herald serves the role of a diplomat, ambassador, scout, and spy of sorts. Their work involves gathering information and fostering relations. This could be things like trade agreements, but also hosting and befriending foreigners or other tribes. They gather any sort of information that may be useful to the tribe. A root herald must be charismatic, calculating. They must always keep in mind the tribe's interests. Their position has a lot of work and responsibilities attached to it. There are many roles to fill, and one must tread lightly. He is very devout and loyal to our tribe and history. My father was the one who spoke with Vela Oren, and together with her, arranged for me to become a hireling of House Telvanni. Her name is Shana Jay. She is one of the egg tenders of my tribe. An egg tender's job is extensive. My mother keeps track of whose eggs belong to whom, which ones are healthy, which ones are sick, what birth sign a hatchling is born under, and the like. She sings nursery rhymes to them, and protects them from parasites and harm. Their work involves meticulous record-keeping, as well as extensive care and nurture. There are, of course, dangers associated with being an egg tender. The eggs are very vulnerable, even in hatching pools beneath the history. Predators often attempt to take the eggs, which means my mother will have to fight to protect them. It's a good thing, then, that she is such an excellent fighter. She's taught me much of what I know. Her name is Dika Wo. She hatched shortly before I left to join House Telvanni in Lothanis. She is quite reserved,
she doesn't speak much. Rather, she prefers to communicate through the hist bond we share. She's excellent at it. Most Argonians communicating with their tribe or history through the mind are usually only able to express their emotions. My sister is able to express herself in a much more complex manner, and is also excellent at understanding your own expressions. It is like carrying a regular conversation, however any ambiguity or uncertainty is non-existent. You understand completely what the other person means. She will likely become a sap speaker. A sap speaker is an Argonian capable of communicating directly with the hist. They spend most of their days meditating beneath the hist tree, drinking the sap and eating their otherwise forbidden fruit. They are then able to enlighten their tribe with the knowledge and will of their history. They serve an incredibly important role within the tribe and priesthood. She isn't a sap speaker yet, and she may never be, but I feel certain she will be one. We communicate with each other every day, and our bond is very strong. Go ahead.
I am not the greatest rider on Nern. However, I do know how to ride and tend to a mount, yes. I suppose you are asking due to the fact I've made it all the way here on foot. You'll definitely cover ground way faster on a mount than on foot. However, I want to take my time to study flora and meet with people. If I wanted to get to Ribbonspire right away, I would have simply hopped on a ship back in Port Telvanus. I don't believe much has changed in that regard since I've met you.
That's all right.
All right.